And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Reverend R.L. Calloway, pastor of the Hurricane Grove Baptist Church, who will deliver our invocation. Reverend Calloway.
Let us pray. Oh God, our heavenly ages past, our hopes for years to come, shelter from this lovely blast and our eternal hope. Dear Heavenly Father, we come this afternoon and say thank you for life, for health, for strength, and for all of the things which you have done for us. For you've been mighty good to us, and you brought us a mighty long ways. We want to thank you. Thank you for this program. Thank you for the participants. May it go down in history and for your name and for your sake. Bless men of every race and every creed and every color. Bless those who are confined to institutions, who are sick in the hospital, who are in prison. Bless those who are outdoors, who are homeless. Make us aware of them and make us aware of our responsibility. Bless us more and more, one by one, name by name. Keep us in your love and your care. And finally, when we come to the end of this life, we pray that thou would receive us in thy kingdom. We'll praise your name through Jesus Christ our Lord, and for his sake. Amen.
Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now please join us in the singing of our national anthem.
Imagine, if you will, what this area was like when the Creeks and the Cherokees claimed the territory. There were several villages, important trails, and religious sites in this area. In 1784, shortly after the Revolutionary War ended and America won her independence from England, the Creeks and the Cherokees ceded thousands of acres of land to the state of Georgia, and Franklin County was established. In an attempt to settle the area quickly, free land was given to the Revolutionary War soldiers and pioneers interested in venturing into the wilderness to build new homes. White settlements were started at Groaning Rock on Little Sandy Creek, southeast of present-day Commerce, Yamakuta near Hurricane Shoals, and Tallahassee Shoals near the Clark County line. More pioneers came, establishing settlements, building forts, schools, and churches. There were 350 people living here when, on February 11th, 1796, land was cut away from Franklin to form the new county of Jackson. If you listen carefully, you may be able to hear some of those early settlers.
Come on, children, now that we've finished our meal, let's take a walk. But stay close, you never know what dangers are around, but who knows what we might discover.
Look, I see a deer prayer.
Yes,
I see a fish. Look at that hawk. Do you see that turtle on that rock over there? Tell us again what it was like when you came here. Tell us about the Indians. Yes, tell us about Bannon and Josiah. Yes, tell us.
I suppose you won't stop pestering me till I tell you about it again. There were a lot of Indians living here when we moved from South Carolina. Most of them were friendly, though, especially Umasaga. We learned a lot from him.
And Bannon was his daughter, right?
Yes, but really she was his adopted daughter. Well, we all thought at first she was an Indian princess, but then when we found out she wasn't, she and Josiah Strong, well, they married and had the first marriage in these parts in 1794.
1784?
No, 94, 2 years before Jackson County became its own county. Okay, tell me, when is Jackson County's birthday?
February 11th, 1796.
That's right.
So Jackson County is 2 years old now.
And haven't we grown? Yes, it is.
Tell us about the walk. Yes, tell us about the walk.
Well, this might take a little longer, so why don't you have a seat? And I'll tell you about the log. Now, I have never actually seen the log, but lots of people in the county have, and they say he's a strange-looking creature. Why, he's about the size of a small pony, covered all over with jet black hair, long hair, and he has a long tail that he constantly moves. But the oddest thing about that tail is the end of it is that long white hair. Now the walk's front legs, well, they're longer than his back legs, so when he walks, he's kind of lumbering side to side, and that tail switching back and forth, and it makes a sound that goes like this, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And that's how you know the walk's coming around. Now the folks in the Tallahassee colony, down where Johnson, Josiah Strong, and Bannon lived, well, they told me that one time they were out in the moonlight, and they saw wolves stepping out of the woods and then going back in. And they couldn't figure it out until they heard whoosh, and they knew the log was about. The log has a head, looks like a giant bear's head, and big red eyes and long teeth. But the scariest thing about that log's head is its tongue. It's like a snake's tongue, and he sticks it out like he's tasting the air, and maybe tasting what he could eat. I don't know. But I've heard that if he sees a light, he goes to investigate, and he sticks his tongue between the cabin walls to see who's there. And when he's around, all the animals get scared. The dogs whine and cry, and the cats hide. Roosters and chickens fly off their roost. You have to be kind of brave to live here where the log lives. But I don't think you need to worry. There's so many new people coming, and we've got such a good militia. And besides, didn't I hear your family was going to move to Jefferson when they got the town laid off? And who knows, maybe your dad's. Well, maybe your father's will draw a lucky draw in the land lottery, and you'll all leave Jackson County and the log behind.
I think it's time to get back to our lessons.
I think you're right, Mary. Let's go on back to the fort.
Look, I see something in the bushes.
Let's go see.
Very good, thank you. Jackson County was named for the Revolutionary War hero, Major General James Jackson. Born in England in 1757, he settled in Savannah at the age of 15, where he studied law with an old family friend. When war broke out, he sided with the Patriots, who sought independence from England. His bravery and leadership were widely recognized, and he rose swiftly through the ranks. After the war, he pursued a successful career in law and ultimately decided to enter public service. Jackson was elected to the first Congress under the new Constitution. Later, he served 2 terms as governor of Georgia and another term in the U.S. Senate. While governor, he designed our state seal and wrote the new Constitution. By all accounts, James Jackson was a very patriotic citizen, devoted to the state of Georgia, and an appropriate choice for such an honor. In 1796, when Jackson County was carved from Franklin, it covered 1,800 square miles. Early settlers received bounty grants, which was land given as reward for service in the Revolutionary War, and they received headright grants, where the number of acres given was based on the number of members in the family. Between 1796 and 1800, the county's population grew from 350 to over 7,000. As the rest of the state opened up for settlement, a new system of attracting immigrants was developed. It was called the land lottery. Lucky winners in a land lottery drew 202 1/2 acres. Although Jackson County continued to attract newcomers with her fertile soil and abundant waters, many pioneers passed on through, prepared to try their luck farther west and north in the gold fields of Dahlonega. In 1806, Jefferson became the county seat, replacing Clarksboro, and soon thereafter the town was laid off with 30 lots around the public square. Known originally as Tomacoggin, by 1820, Jefferson had a brick courthouse, 8 stores, 3 public houses, saddlery shops, blacksmiths, a tin manufactory, and even a shoemaker. By the 1830s, stagecoach lines were in operation through the county, and the town became a stop on the Augusta to Dahlonega route.
Steak too.
I surely did, and I'm looking forward to a good meal, too. You know, man, it can get mighty dusty riding from Athens to here.
Oh, would you happen to have the Athens paper? We'd like to read the news.
Well, here you are, right there.
Looks like you got some prospecting gear there. You expecting to find gold up there in Delonico?
Well, I'm going to give it a try, and if not, I just might come back here and settle. If the businesses around the square here are any indication, Jefferson certainly is a booming town. That's a mighty fine courthouse y'all got there, too. Y'all must have a lot of lawyers.
Oh, we got enough.
Do you get many travelers through here?
Oh, yes, we get quite a few travelers from Augusta going up to the mountains on the Federal Road.
And we still get a good bit of wagon travel up the Lakota Trail over there on the eastern side of the county, too.
Now, the Federal Road, is that the one Jackson built?
You mean James Jackson, the man this county was named for?
No, dear, that was Andrew Jackson, the 7th president of our United States. James Jackson never came here. Rest his soul.
Oh, mister, we've kept you talking long enough. You said you were hungry, and that was the dinner bell. Come on, we'll walk you on in.
Trails and roads which had crisscrossed Jackson County from the beginning played a major role in the development of the area. One of these was the Lakota Trail. Highway 441 closely follows this former Indian path. The Federal Road, begun in 1803, was a trade route from Augusta into the Cherokee Territory. Future President Andrew Jackson built the road through our county in 1813. It went northwest to southeast, roughly from Belmont to Oconee Heights. It was along this road that Jackson would later march, a fact commemorated by the Jackson Trail marker. The county was definitely on the migration path. As the population in the surrounding areas increased, there was a demand for new counties to be formed, and Jackson was asked to give up some of her original territory. Clark County's creation in 1801 took not only land, but the state university as well. When the location of the University of Georgia was chosen, it was within Jackson County's boundaries, and classes had begun before Clark County was cut away. In 1811, land was given to help form the new county of Madison, and then in 1818, more land was taken in the creation of Walton, Gwinnett, and Hall. Later, Jackson would lose additional land to Banks County in 1859, and finally to Barrow County in 1914. Thus Jackson County gradually shrank from her original 1,800 square miles to 337 today. Although known for giving up 81% of her land, certainly Jackson County is better known for a great medical discovery which took place here. It was on a Wednesday, March 30, 1842.
Good afternoon, Dr. Long.
Hey, great. Good afternoon. Ed, would you mind bringing that chair and put it over in the light, please? James, I think you made a very good decision having one of those tumors removed today. And I think it's quite likely that under the influence of ether that you will feel no pain.
Well, Dr. Long, I want you to try this because, as you know, I don't want to feel any pain.
Well, gentlemen, you know this is an experiment, but I think it's quite likely we will succeed.
Well, doctor, if ether does not allay the pain as you hope, we are ready to hold James still.
Well, Then we're ready. James, you know how this works. I'll hold this under your nose and you breathe deeply. William, will you assist me and hold this under his nose and continue pouring the ether while I perform the surgery? James, the surgery is complete.
Well, that can't be true. I didn't feel a thing.
James, it's true. I saw the entire operation.
It is so. Yes, doctor, show them the tumor.
I don't know what to say, Dr. Long. I didn't feel the slightest pain.
Well done.
And so, anesthesia was discovered. Dr. Crawford W. Long is well remembered for his contribution to the field of medicine. In downtown Jefferson, there is a museum on the site of his office, which annually hosts visitors from all over the world, and a monument in his honor in the center of the old square. Inscriptions on his statue in the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C. tell all the world about the first painless surgery being performed here in Jackson County. Dr. Long was one of a number of professionals living here in the mid-1800s. The majority of the people, however, were farmers, and the principal crop was cotton. largest industries in our county was the manufacturing of gin saws for the cotton gin, of course. According to a Jackson County map from 1867, there were other businesses operating: a wool factory, a hat factory, a pottery operation, and a smeltering plant at Hurricane Shoals. The Union Furnace Company used iron ore mined near Harmony Grove, the first name for commerce, to make such items as cooking utensils and farming implements. During the Civil War, it supplied cannonballs and other war materials to the Confederacy. Jackson County sent approximately 1,350 men to help with the Southern cause. Although there were no major conflicts on our soil, a minor skirmish did occur in July 1864 in the southern part of our county. 430 Union soldiers were captured at Price's Ridge and held at the University of Georgia for 4 days before being transferred to the prisoner of war camp at Andersonville. The Civil War produced its share of grief and heartache for all concerned. It was a difficult time for the soldiers who had to leave their families and their homes. But it was also a difficult time for the loved ones they left behind. Listen now as one Jackson County soldier writes home from the war.
Camp near Rapidan River, Virginia, July 1863. Dear Father, I will commence a letter to you, but I may not have time to finish it. We have returned from a tour through Pennsylvania and fought a great battle at Gettysburg. I will first relate something of the battle. The losses on both sides were great. The Yankees fought well. The fight commenced Wednesday, 1st of July, and continued 3 days. But our brigade was engaged only the first day. We were drawn up in line of battle north of town and ordered forward. We had to climb a fence and wade a creek, which gave them a better chance at us. Our men charged them and they began to retreat slowly at first. Rallied, then retreated through the town. We killed many and captured a lot of prisoners. I saw a place in a wheat field where we fought that was almost literally covered with dead Yankees. It is a horrible sight to look upon. The prisoners say that we whipped them on their own soil. When we left, fields all around town were strewn with dead Yankees, unburied. The citizens of Gettysburg can have a little experience for themselves of the horrors of war. The citizens were frightened at our approach. They had been told that we were worse than savages and had come to destroy and burn everything. A lady in Gettysburg said she thought the rebels had horns. We were compelled to respect all private property, but we burned ironworks and railroad bridges. I suppose that Sarah has received a letter in answer to hers and yours. I am glad to tell you that I can rejoice and believe that Jesus is my Savior. A revival has been going on in our camp for the past few days, and a great many have joined the church. I was baptized Sunday and sent a certificate to Rehoboth to be received as a member. As little incidences are sometimes interesting by being associated with the great, I will mention a little anecdote about the departed hero, General Jackson. Last year I went to a revival. General Jackson came up and took a seat on the ground near me. After the sermon was over, the general went up and told the preacher that he had never before seen so plainly of Jesus giving himself as a ransom for a sinner, that anyone who would not believe on him was a fool. General Jackson's men say he's a very religious and pious man. We were on picket duty the other day, and there was considerable contact between our men and the Yanks. The river divides the picket line, but that did not keep the two parties separate, as there are good swimmers on both sides. The Yanks would swim over to our line and exchange coffee for tobacco, and our men go over there and exchange tobacco for coffee. The men would carry these little bundles on their heads tied on with a strap. I do not expect any more fighting here until the enemy has time to recruit. Our army here is determined not to be whipped, but I'm afraid with the enemy's success, the war will be protracted 2 years longer. I fear it will last that long anyway. Give my love to Mother, Grandma, and all the family. I will be glad to hear from you at any time. Your affectionate son, John.
The end of the war brought change, both to the South and to Jackson County. It was a time to rebuild and to start anew. Schools and churches continued to play a vital role in the lives of our citizens. Early residents had realized the importance of education and provided a school in each settlement. As the county's population grew, each community built its own school, usually on private property, on land often deemed unsuitable for farming. These old field schools were generally no more than 3 miles apart. Where there were 28 schoolhouses in 1864, by 1889 there were 147, 118 for whites and 29 for blacks. Records indicate that almost 250 schools have operated at different times in our county's history. Two deserve special mention. One is the Harmony Grove Female Academy, which, when it was chartered in 1824, was the first school for girls in our state. The second was Martin Institute, begun as the Jackson County Academy in 1818. The school's name was changed to honor William Duncan Martin, who left a legacy of railroad and banking stock. Burned in 1942, it was the forerunner of the Jefferson City school system. Among many renowned graduates of Martin Institute include U.S. Supreme Court Justice Joseph R. Lamar, Moena Michael, who conceived the idea of Poppy Day to honor war veterans, Gustavus J. Orr, who became State Commissioner of Education and was well known as the father of common schools in Georgia, Lurleen Collier, who became the first Georgia State Director of Home Economists with the Agricultural Extension Service, and the Honorable John N. Holder, who was twice Speaker of the Georgia House of Representatives, for many years Chairman of the State Highway Board, owner and publisher of the Jackson Herald for almost 70 years, and 5 times candidate for governor. Another notable contribution by Jackson County to the field of education were the efforts of John Jacobus Flournoy. After years of appeals to the Georgia legislature, Flournoy was instrumental in the establishment of Cave Springs School for the Deaf in 1847. Oftentimes, schools met in large meeting halls or in churches. Community life centered around work and church activities. Weekly services and annual revivals provided a time for visiting with friends, discussing politics and weather, planning community projects like log rollings and quilting bees, and courting among the young folks. Jackson County was created in 1796, 3 churches had been established. Coney Baptist Church was organized in 1788 near Hurricane Charles. In 1795, Thyatira Presbyterian was founded, and a year later, Cabin Creek Baptist Church began services. Later, churches were built in settlements near Indian villages and major trails. Jackson County had 15 churches by 1843. And from 1860 to 1900, at least 20 new churches were formed in the county. Today, well over 100 congregations hold weekly services, including Paradise AME, which was founded in 1858 and is one of the state's oldest black churches.
Give me that old-time religion, give me that old-time religion, give me that old-time religion. It's good enough for me.
Yes, give me that
old-time religion, give me that old-time religion, give me that old-time religion. It's good enough for me. It was good for the Hebrew children, it was good for the Hebrew children. It was good for the Hebrew children, it's good enough for me. It was good for Paul and Silas, it was good for Paul and Silas, it was good for Paul and Silas, it's good enough for me. It was good for my grandmother, it was good for my grandmother, it was good for my grandmother, it's good enough for me.
Give me that
Old-time religion, give me that old-time religion, give me that old-time religion, it's good enough for me.
Give me that
Old-time religion, old-time religion,
that
old-time religion, old-time religion,
that
old-time religion, old-time religion, it's good enough for me.
Yes, give me that
Old-time religion, give me that old-time religion, give me that old-time religion, it's good enough for me. Oh, give me that old-time religion, give me that old-time religion, give me that old-time religion, it's good enough for me. Oh, give me that old-time religion, give me that old-time religion, give me that old-time religion.
symbols of progress were making their presence felt. Newspapers were started, railroads built, electric and telephone service begun.
Hello, Sadie. Would you please get Iris on the line? Well, hello, hon. Happy anniversary.
Oh, thank you so much. Can you believe all the progress that's been made since Harold and I got married in 1875?
You two were sure a sight leaving Harmony Grove on the Northeastern Railroad.
Oh my, we had a grand honeymoon, I'll tell you. And when we got back, they wrote it up in the Forest News.
You know, I'd almost forgotten that was the Jackson Herald's original name, but it was in all our newspapers, too.
And what I remember most is shortly after that, they built that fine new courthouse down in Jefferson. And Jefferson now is going to celebrate its 100th birthday this November. My, I can't believe the changes. I'm so proud of our county, see?
Well, aren't you just as proud of our town? We really took off after they built that railroad, and all those fine stores downtown, my goodness. It's no wonder everybody jumped on the bandwagon about changing our name. Commerce sounds so much more progressive than Harmony Grove.
And speaking of progress and railroads, it was the Gainesville Midland that caused the towns of Houston and Pendergrass to get started.
Well, Maysville certainly come a long way, too. And I hear there's even talk of building towns called Nicholson and Center down on the Athens Road.
My, but you know what has me most excited? Here it is 1906, and the Harmony Grove Mills has agreed to furnish electricity all over town. You know, I'm going to ask Harold for one of those new fancy washing machines.
Well, I don't know, honey. You can't get blood out of a turnip.
Why, no, if you squeeze hard enough.
Maybe so.
Made in the last 50 years.
I agree.
I used to love to sit with her reminisce about the old days.
Well, I was just thinking about Grandma, too, and you know, she really did love to remember. I wonder what she'd think about the way things are today.
Oh, I know one thing she'd go on about is how everybody stopped growing cotton after the boll weather went to raising chickens.
Well, you know, we can thank that Talmo man, M.E. Murphy, for coming up with that idea of raising out hundreds all at once, and not just for us Jackson Countyans either, but for farmers all over the whole northeast Georgia, well, the whole state of Georgia, in fact.
Wasn't that in 1924 when your folks just got married?
Yes, you know, Daddy always said he hated to see the cotton time in, but, you know, raising chickens and eggs has been good business, too.
Well, seems like our men always did come up with good ideas to make the land pay. Like that Johnson boy, Jimmy, starting the first Angus cattle herd around here, and the people over in Apple Valley raising peaches.
And don't forget those McGethers and how they turned their backyard operation into a meat packing plant, serving this whole section in northeast Georgia.
Progress, industry, it's bound to happen. We'll have cotton mills springing up all over.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, is there? We're going to keep needing jobs for all our boys coming back from the service. I hope we don't lose anybody in this next military mess.
Oh, I do too. Say, didn't your neighbor's boy just get his call to go?
He sure did. The very day he went to that grand opening of that new supermarket in Brazelton. You know he's dating a girl on that side of the county. You tell me. Yes, and to tell you the truth, honey, I don't know what she sees in him. When the good Lord gave out brains, he was behind the door, but he's so sweet, yes he is.
Well, I hope they'll be happy.
Indians, pioneers, land lotteries, and the discovery of anesthesia and wars. These have all played a major role in our county's past. However, as important as these events are, nothing is more important than the contributions of citizens who call Jackson County home. Many have attained not just local, but state, national, and even international fame. For example, Floyd Fuzzy Ward, who is a solicitor, lost his life fighting crime and corruption in our county. Doctors Elsie and Myron Allen, who were known regionally for their early use of radium in the treatment of tumors at their clinic in Houston. Admiral David L. McDonald, who grew up in Maysville and became the Chief of Naval Operations and also serving on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Apple Valley's native Tat Bennett, who was appointed U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. Although it's impossible to name them all tonight, here are some of the others.
Formed in 1876 by William Harrison Brazelton. William married Susan Hush from the nearby town of Houston, and they had 3 sons, who are often referred to as the 3 B's. They were Henry, Green, and John. The 3 brothers began operating a small store in the late 1800s, which grew into a prosperous and diversified operation, called by some the first shopping center in the area. It included, among other things, a department store, corn and flour mill, lumbering and cotton operations, marble and granite works, telephone exchange, news publishing, and electric distribution. Understanding the importance of education and realizing that many students in the West Jackson area did not have the opportunity to attend school after the 7th grade, the 3 B's also built and operated a school for grades 1 through 12. They provided all financial needs for the school for many years until the Jackson County school system assumed responsibility for the operation. In 1930, the Brazelton boys basketball team represented the state of Georgia in the national championship. Under the leadership of Lewis Brazelton, who served many years as mayor, the town has grown and prospered, shifting from its beginnings in the cotton, corn, and wheat area to cattle and chickens, to textiles, then business and manufacturing. Today, Brazelton is a center for industry and tourism. Several descendants of the 3 B's have worked for higher government officials. All have played and continue to play a vital part in the community affairs.
Members of the Bryan family have been leaders in Jefferson and Jackson County since the early 1900s. Morris Bryan Sr., my grandfather, came to Jefferson in 1916 from Union Point, Georgia, as an official of Jefferson Mills and served as its president from 1934 until his death in 1947. Morris Bryan Jr. followed his father as a Mills president and developed it into one of the world's most modern textile manufacturing plants. In addition to the textile field, he was a leader in education, sports, and politics. My father served as chairman of the Jefferson Board of Education for 36 years. He and Jefferson Mills provided considerable funding to the school system and community, building, among other things, an observatory, a stadium, and one of the finest track centers in Georgia. Each May, Jefferson plays host to the boys' all-class state track meet, otherwise known as the Georgia Olympics.
Bird spent her early years growing up in Commerce, living in the Seabird Shackle House. She is a descendant of William Burns, who fought in the American Revolution as a member of the 1st North Carolina Regiment. Following the war, he was given land in this area in the land lottery. Her husband is the president of all bands. Although she worked many years for the Atlanta Journal and Constitution, you may know her best for writing a novel called Cold Sassy Tree. Using her father as the book's narrator, Will Tweedy, Ollie then modeled the main character after her great-grandfather, a store owner in Harmony Grove. The novel is said to be an authentic picture of life in a small southern town at the turn of the century. My English classes here at Jackson County Comprehensive High School read and enjoy her novel each year. Citizens of Commerce have honored her by celebrating Cold Sassy Days.
Cash and her husband, Reverend W.D. Cash, had a great impact on the lives of many of our county residents through their involvement in the field of education and the ministry. Martha's adult life was devoted to teaching. For 44 years, she taught in Jefferson, beginning her career in a 3-room school on Lawsville Street near the old Paradise AME Church. The other teachers were Mrs. M.R. Talbot and Miss Bessie Mae Hammond. Miss Cash also was an accomplished musician, and she played the piano for the Paradise AME Church for many years. Reverend Cash followed his father's footprints as principal of the Jefferson School and in leading efforts to provide a better school facilities for blacks in the community. In the mid-1940s, Reverend and Mrs. Cash contributed the first $200 to secure land for a new school. The Gordon Street, the school opened in 1948 and was named Bryan Elementary School to honor the outstanding financial support from the M.M. Bryan Sr. Reverend Cash served as pastor of the Paradise AME Church over 20 years. I count it a genuine blessing to have known Reverend and Mrs. Cash for their winsome and sincere great leadership in our church and community. Though they have gone, they have left a living example of loving service worthy of our emulation.
Two distinguished educators, Prairie Elrod, J.L. McMullen. Prairie Elrod was an educator who served as superintendent of Jackson County Schools from 1953 to 1964. Like another superintendent, G.J.N. Wilson, Prairie wrote a county history book, Historical Notes of Jackson County, Georgia, which he published in 1967. Frary was a key figure in establishing the Crawford W. Long Museum, and he and his wife, Doris, were the mainstay of the operation for many years. He was a founder and longtime leader of the Jackson County Historical Society, and so it is understandable that he was named by the County Board of Commissioners as the official Jackson County historian. Historical notes on Jackson County has been a major source for tonight's program and continues to be the major source for those researching our county history. Mr. J.L. McMullen, better known as Mr. Mack, a lifelong educator, classroom teacher, and administrator. He was an agriculturalist. He was a vocational teacher when he introduced the Johnson family to Angus cattle, thus the beginning of the cattle industry in North Georgia. Today, Jackson County is the largest producer of beef cattle in the state. Each year, the Jackson County Cattlemen's Association presents a trophy in memory and honor of Mr. Mack to an outstanding youth who is involved in the cattle production. And other visions for education in Jackson County is demonstrated by what you are here tonight in this building and these students. His leadership and wisdom was shown and will be alive for years to come. When he made a statement to the Board of Education in support of then Superintendent Tim Wheeler's dream to build this auditorium, Mr. Mack said, and I quote, "It is not an expense, it is an investment in the future of our youth and our county." No truer words were ever spoken. Mr. Mack's portrait hangs in the entrance to this building.
Willis Horton, Sr. of Commerce, served as a state senator. It was in that position in 1956 that he proposed a new state flag. That flag remains in use today, but perhaps he is best remembered for his work with the Georgia Department of Transportation. He served as chairman for several years in the 1960s and was very influential in the middle route being selected for I-85, bringing 22 miles of interstate highway through Jackson County. Hardin was also instrumental in getting many of the roads and streets paved throughout the county. As his son Willis Hardin Jr. recently remarked, he was responsible for literally lifting Jackson County out of the mud.
Dr. Lamartine Griffin Hardman was born in Harmony Grove. He earned a wide reputation as a surgeon and physician, and in 1900, he and his brother started the first clinic in the area. Later in life, Hardman turned to other interests, including banking, manufacturing, education, and politics. He served the county and stayed both as a representative and a senator. Dr. Hardman was elected to 2 terms as governor of the state of Georgia. In 1926, he won the office by defeating another Jackson Countyan, John Holder, in a runoff. Hardman and his family built Harmony Grove Mills, the oldest and largest industry in commerce, and they provided telephone and electric services for the city and parts of Jackson County.
O'Kelly was born and grew up in Maysville, Georgia. She left school in the 9th grade to help on her father's farm, the subject of many of her paintings. Entirely self-taught, she began painting at the age of 60 when she ordered her first canvas and oils from the Sears Roebuck catalog. In 1974, she took her paintings to the High Museum of Art in Atlanta, Georgia, where the director offered to display them in the museum shop. It was there her work was discovered and brought to national acclaim. Medlou O'Kelly since that time. Her paintings have been acclaimed throughout the world and are included in every significant collection of American folk art. The Maysville Public Library has prints of her paintings as well as her highly acclaimed books. I quote these words from Mattie Lou O'Kelly. There are paintings all around us if only we would look and see.
Richard B. Russell Jr. was born in Jackson County in 1897. He devoted his life to public service. After earning a law degree from the University of Georgia, he was elected to the state legislature. When elected governor of Georgia in 1930, he became the youngest to hold this high office. Russell was elected a United States Senator 2 years later and served a long and distinguished career of 37 years. A Democrat, he became one of the most influential people in the Senate. Today, Russell's home is in Bear County.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, former representative to the Georgia House of Representatives and one-time candidate for governor, Commerce native Lauren Bubba McDonald.
Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Georgia on my mind. Georgia, Georgia, a song of you comes as sweet and clear as moonlight through the pine. Other arms reach out to me, other eyes cry tenderly, when in peaceful dreams I see the road leads back to you. Georgia, Georgia, no peace I find, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Other arms reach out to me, and other eyes cry tenderly, when in peaceful dreams I see the road leads back to you. Georgia, Georgia, no peace I find, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind.
In many ways, today, Georgia has Jackson County on its mind. The accessibility provided by Interstate 85 has spurred immense growth and development. Think of the new industries that have located here in recent years, our expanded industrial parks and the outlet malls at Banks Crossing. Think of our exploding population, which has created the need for new and enlarged schools and many new subdivisions. Be proud of our first-class hospital facility, BJC Medical Center, now in its 35th year and keeping pace with medicine's rapid changes. Did you know that the state's Arboretum, Thompson Mills Forest, is in Jackson County, north of Brazelton? And don't forget hurricane shows and the countywide effort that brought it into being, and the continued care and development by the Tumbling Water Society and their Heritage Village. And last but not least, Remember the individuals and groups throughout our county who are devoted to preserving and promoting Jackson County's history and heritage, like the Jefferson Historic Preservation Commission, the Commerce Main Street Program, the Jackson County Historical Society, and many, many proud owners of our historic homes, farms, and buildings. Jackson County, nestled in the rolling hills of the Northeast Georgia Piedmont, what will the next 200 years bring? Tonight we have traveled together for a look at over 200 years of Jackson County history and heritage. Now we come to the final portion of the program. At this time, the Jackson County Comprehensive High School Band and Chorus will perform a special selection entitled Shining Generations. This piece was commissioned by the Bicentennial Jackson County Committee specifically for this event. We hope you enjoy the premier performance of our Jackson County Bicentennial song, Shining Generations. presented to you this evening. Please take a few minutes to look in the lobby at the items on display. You'll find the Bicentennial quilt, which will hang permanently in the County Administrative Building. You will find a number of items for sale if you'd like to help support the efforts of the Bicentennial Committee as it raises money to erect a monument on the courthouse lawn to commemorate our county's 200th birthday. Then please consider purchasing a Bicentennial brick, a cookbook, t-shirt, package of note cards, or History of Education in Jackson County by Lou Holloman. Or if you're interested in acquiring a video of tonight's presentation, please fill out a form in the lobby to reserve your copy. And now let's pause for just a second and take this opportunity to thank all of those people who are responsible for tonight's presentation. And in particular, we'd like to thank the Jackson Herald for contributing information, including in the script, as well as Doris Elrod for permitting us to quote from Prairie Elrod's book, The Historical Notes on Jackson County. And of course, I think we need to give a special round of applause for all of the cast members in tonight's performance, and to the writers, Martha Babb and Susan B. Deaver. Thank you again for sharing in this special time with us, and we bid you a pleasant good evening.